Hi, this is Paula Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. One of the most important things about going into a topic deeply is to gain more knowledge. The idea is that what's on the surface may not be enough substance to allow us to steer a successful course in life. And one of my excitements about the internet has always been is that it's self-teaching. You can put information out there. You can get feedback from viewers. Each viewer can become to each other like a research department. And today I want to develop this idea with a very special guest, Carl Pearson, who has an idea for a tuition-free university education. So, Carl, thank you for joining me. We're rolling a show right now. Sorry. So,
I can talk about that. The Business Week several months ago, in November 2007, wrote an article in which they were extolling the virtues of the tuition-free colleges in America. And I read the article avidly to see what they knew that I did not. And I saw that one tuition-free college was where you got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, milked cows, and then went to the college for cow something or other, and that was how you earned your tuition. Then there were two schools.
You mean you learned about cows?
Well, I don't know. It was a farming, agricultural program, and they had to
like a work
study.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. Two of them were engineering, Cooper Union, and another engineering school from a munitions manufacturer. I forget the name of it, but something like that. So there were two engineering schools that were free, and then the military academies, West Point, Annapolis, Coast Guard. That's the extent of the free colleges in America. That was all that Business Week found. So my idea, I've written about it, and I have website material on this. I wrote a book in part. I know the school business, and I know that a school can be run at $2 or $3 per hour. That's my basic knowledge of the school business, that you can run a school and have a class of 30 people and only charge them $2 or $3 per hour to sit in the class. So I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if we could just attach a credit card reader to the back of each chair, and then when the person comes in, just slides the thing and pays for it, and if they sit down without doing that, we electrocute them or something like that. But imagine if you have 30 people in the class, each paying $3. That's $90 for 1 hour. As it is now, the colleges and universities charge something like, maybe it's $70 for that hour. Close to
for each person?
For 1 hour.
For each student?
For one student.
Wow.
Yeah. They call it a credit hour. If they're charging, I mean, tuition is often, say, $30,000.
Right.
And 160, you have 15 hours a week times 16, 225. 450. You have 450 hours of instruction in a year, and at $45,000 tuition, that would be $100 an hour. So if it's not quite 45, maybe it's $70 an hour or something like that. That's very expensive. $70 an hour. How much do you earn in an hour? How many years is it going to take you to pay off a $70 per hour instruction? 450 hours times 4 years, 1,800 hours of instruction. You're going to have to work 1,800 hours times 3 divided into 70.
Wow.
Then double because of tax. So you're going to have to work forever to pay off a loan the way we're doing it now. So I figured out that you can have a college for $3 an hour, really $2. Yeah, I can do it for $2. And that is what drove me to writing about this. And then a friend of mine the other day, when I told him this.
Let me just recap for the viewer. as I'm understanding it, you have figured out how much the professors paid, the cost of renting the room.
Right.
And you have a little reader in each chair, so you sit down, swipe your card, and after the card is swiped and it costs $2 or $3 an hour,
Yeah.
That's enough to pay for the room, to pay for the electricity and
Right.
the water and the professor.
Well, you have 30 students, and they're paying, say, $3. That gives me plenty of money. $3 is plenty. I don't
so that's
need
$90 an hour?
$90. That's a lot of money.
For a professor? What would you pay the
Well,
professor for? I mean, shouldn't you get what a lawyer gets?
I went up to a town, upstate New York, and met with the town official, and we talked about the prevailing rate. And the prevailing rate was published on the door of a local store. They're paying, you know what they're paying, and this is what people earn, $9 an hour. And
so
if you
professors getting
no,
$9?
not for a professor, but for working in the store.
Yeah.
So if you then they had $1 for a differential if you worked in the evening. Many people now would work for $15 or $20 an hour. This is not a full-time job. Teaching does not have to be a full-time job. You really would like to get people from the community that know something, that are working in the area and can teach on the side. You don't have to have full-time teachers.
I see what you're saying.
Full-time teachers create an overhead. It creates a tenure. It creates accreditation, licensing, degree granting, all of these problems that and campuses and offices and facilities and all that. That's where the money goes.
Right.
The real teaching itself, if you get right down to it, it's what's in the classroom.
I can't even begin to tell you how much I've learned on the internet just in the last couple of years that just makes me just amazed.
So at $60, at $90, wait, 30 times 3, $90 for that room for 1 hour. That room could be used 12 hours a day. So instead of 90, you now deal with 12. That's 1,080. So you receive 1,080 of income for that one room. And then you have 4 other rooms in the building. So you have 5,000 a day. And then you have 7 days a week or 6.5 days a week. That's 30,000 coming in for the week. Times 50, it's $1.5 million. You have enough income. The rent is nothing. The rent is very small.
But 12 hours a day, you would be giving the teachers how much?
Well, the teacher would be paid per hour.
And what would that be?
Well, you would have to negotiate with the teachers. You would find that some people may be willing to teach for more or for less.
Yeah.
But you
I would
certainly
like to think,
could.
I know in masseuse in New York it's $100, right? I mean, or acupuncture session.
Well, that's when they have marketing. They have to hire people, and they have rent and other things to pay. So you're talking about a business person charging you $100 an hour. A teacher that walks in gets free parking. They walk into the class and they get their money without any expense at all. So they don't compare what a person in business charges per hour with what a business will pay somebody to work for that business. So a teacher could be hired for $20 an hour. That's not an exorbitant or an insufficient amount. $20 an hour is not bad. 25.
As long as they're being taken care of in other areas of their life, you know, the health care and the rent, and that they have nice housing and things like that. Yeah.
And they might want this as a way of reviewing the students to see who they're going to hire.
Yeah.
They may want their own personnel to teach.
Yeah, I can see you're thinking in a very practical way that way, that there's real information that needs to be exchanged. I think a lot of people go to college and they're just punching a clock. And there's the real love for literature, philosophy. It seems oftentimes it develops later in life.
See, this is an
or it
equivalency.
Could be there earlier, but
it's an equivalency college, no degree, no degree, because we're not licensed to give a degree. To issue a degree, you need the state's approval. This is a non-licensed operation. No accreditation. We don't have tenure. We don't have 1 million books.
But if it's no degree, and it's equivalency,
Yes.
it implies that people actually want the knowledge for the sake of the knowledge. people I've noticed today are so stressed and so concerned about where they're going to fit in with society, and they want a certain amount of security from peer respect, peer approval. And it seems as though, in a large degree, degrees are about that, to a large degree.
If that's true. Now, I think a question could be asked, well, who would hire somebody from an equivalency school when they could take a graduate of Harvard?
Somebody who wants to get the job done?
Well, let's examine.
Because someone on Harvard could have.
Let's examine what happens now. Locally, somebody that knows the school, a local employer, and they have a local graduate of the school, and they know that that graduate doesn't owe any money on a student loan.
Right.
And they know the student because he's been there, he's gone through the school. They know that the quality of education is as high as anywhere else. So a local employer having two people who apply for the job, one from Harvard who owes $140,000.
Oh, at least.
Okay, or a local student that doesn't owe a penny. Would the Harvard graduate be happy with the same level of salary? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, not only would he not be happy, he would have to get 2 or 3 part-time jobs to pay off the loan. So in hiring a graduate of a
No, I see what you're saying.
So it doesn't make sense to hire the Harvard student.
Yeah.
It makes sense to hire locally.
Right.
So you can actually build your community with a tuition-free college.
Right.
And we give away the GED education as well.
When you decided to go to Harvard, what was in your decision-making process?
That it was the best school.
And do you feel it was? Are you satisfied with it? Were you happy?
You know, the answer is that there are differences, but I'm sure that yes, I still think that Harvard is probably the best. It was then. I'm sure it is now. I don't really know.
Why were you selected to go? What kind of student were you in high school? What were your interests?
Well, I dropped out of high school. I don't have my high school diploma yet.
You dropped out?
Yeah.
So you must have been very self-motivating.
Well, I motivated myself out of high school quickly.
How did Harvard get attracted to you? Because usually they want people who graduated from high school.
I went into the Army at age 17. I joined the Army with another high school dropout. And I spent almost 3 years in the Army, and I wanted to get out of the Army early, so I had to apply to a college. And I then found out that nobody wanted me. My father and my uncle both sought an admission for me anywhere in the country, and we only had 2. One was from Columbia, General Studies, no degree, non-matriculated. They were willing to take my money. And the other was Long Island University at Brooklyn campus, and they admitted me. One week later, I wound up working for the admissions director. A year and a half later, I became the president of the student body. And by the end of 3 years, I got an admission to Yale, NYU, Michigan, Columbia, Harvard, all these
What do you
schools.
attribute that to? What did all of these institutions see in you?
I changed my attitude, and I worked awfully hard when I got out of the Army, and I hadn't been in school for 5 years or 4 years. I worked awfully hard. I had deficiencies to make up, and I worked in the school. But I also, the first day I went there, I said, who's the top student here? I went into the elevator, and I remember, who's the top guy here? And then I asked that question of 5 or 6 people, and each one told me it's Holly. Where? 11th floor. So I went to the 11th floor, and I met Hollister Brewster. And he is a student from Trinidad who's now a famous heart surgeon. He went through LIU, and we were best of friends. He's a famous heart surgeon. He developed the angioplasty, where they put the thing through your vein or artery. He and I were friends, and he got one of 63 admissions to Cornell Medical School. And he's mixed race from Trinidad, so that's an amazing thing from LIU that he got a scholarship to go to a medical school that has fewer people attending than almost any other medical school. I went to Harvard Law School. That's a pretty good thing too. And another.
What did you learn from him?
Well, we studied hard. He was nothing but study. He worked awfully hard, and he applied himself, and I also applied myself because that was really in that group of people. He was a medical pre-med, and then pre-meds often worked awfully hard.
Right.
Yeah.
It still seems as though if you were, I don't know, if you didn't even bother finishing high school, you know, it didn't interest you that much, you went off into the Army for 3 years,
Right.
you came back, did something traumatize you that you think, gee, now I better buckle down?
No, I just wanted out of the Army, and I knew that I could get out early if I went to college, and I knew that it was time that I did something, so I decided to go to college, but I had no prior awareness of what I was going to do. When I got out of college, I was offered a job which I turned down, unfortunately, to be the assistant to the #1 real estate magnate in the country, Zeckendorf.
Why'd you turn it down?
Because I wanted to go to Harvard Law School.
I see.
It would have prevented me from going to law school.
I see.
I think I made a mistake. I think I should have
I think I made a mistake. There are no mistakes.
I was interviewed in his Oval Office on Madison Avenue in New York. He had an Oval Office comparable to the president's office. And
Carl,
I was asked to be his assistant, and I made a mistake.
It ain't over until the fat lady sings, let me tell you, because the reason I'm asking is I'm thinking so deeply, does education liberate us, or does education train us to think in a box, you know, in order to be successful?
You need the education, but you've got to learn how to apply it. And you have too many academicians that can talk a good game, but they don't know the reality.
Right.
And I try to merge both. Everything that I do can be done.
Right.
I don't advocate impractical things.
Right, exactly.
I don't waste my time saying, well, we need a constitutional amendment. The minute you hear that, you know the people are just playing mind games. The things that I suggest can be done. I've analyzed it from a legal and business standpoint, and they can be done.
Wasn't it interesting, John Cheshire, before, when he was talking about his forefathers, Rutledge, who helped with the Constitution, how he gave so much? I think he was even broke at the end and depressed, but that it still had launched this vision that I think now we're being called upon to see if we can keep it going. That's what interests me about education, and what is something that really expands the mind as opposed to restrict it, because a couple of people I know sort of told me off the records that PhD means permanent head damage. That for the sake of pleasing those that are giving the grades, you start to even unconsciously go in a certain direction that maybe starts to get out of synchrony with reality, to the point that people can't even see that airplanes and jet fuel can't make a building turn into dust in 11 seconds. And
you know what I'm going to do when you just reminded me, with my free tuition college, the no tuition college, upstate New York, I'm going to have this college be emphasizing manufacturing. I'm going to try to bring back manufacturing in the area by having one curriculum be a manufacturing curriculum that people will learn basically from zero all the way up on what needs to be done to recreate manufacturing. There's marketing, there's materials, delivery, transportation. There's just so many things, and I don't know what it is, but a college could teach it. And that's what we need. We can bring back areas of anywhere by doing the right things.
So where did these ideas come from? It's not a typical Harvard graduate.
It's out of need. It's just if you...
No, but you know what I'm saying about the Harvard graduate. You know, so many of them think, oh, now I'm a Harvard graduate, and then you go to the places that appreciate Harvard graduates, and then pretty soon you're thinking like everybody in that group, which isn't usually thinking along the lines that you're talking about. Where does that creativity come from?
You lose your identity as being a Yale graduate in the case of John earlier when we heard, and Harvard. It doesn't have any meaning. It's just part of a biography that you don't talk about or read. I mean, when I study a problem and come up with a solution, it isn't a Harvard solution. It has nothing to do with Harvard or LIU. It's just a solution. Like I walk around, I like to deal with problems, and I have an inventory of solutions that I've already thought out for different things. So suddenly I see a problem, and I might be able to find two solutions that can go together, and it sounds like it's really brilliant, but I already have those things right up here. It isn't that I just thought of it. I've got a repertoire of solutions that I've thought through for a long time.
So you're
like eBay. I worked on the initial eBay for myself. I called it BS, bargain BD, bargain data. That was my original concept many, many years ago, bargain data. I have files on it leading up to the whole thing. I made an aborted effort to do a website when websites were brand new, and it didn't work. The people I hired weren't able to do it. And then I made another aborted effort, and now I have a website that is the new eBay.
Really?
That is totally different. It's a combination of eBay and Craigslist. I'm allowing people to put everything they would like to do on life on free advertising that lasts forever. And there's a 50-mile radius search, so if you say mow lawns, anyone within 50 miles can find you through the zip code radius search. So everyone in this town upstate New York, I'm going to try to have everyone list themselves, put on 1,000 tasks. The more the merrier. Figure out what people want. Try to cater to what people need and want.
Wow.
And then you can list yourself, and I will market that for free. There's no fee. Your ads last forever, as many ads as you want. You can have a URL to your website. So when they find you because of the words mow lawns, URL, click on it. It goes to your website, and it shows your power motor, your fee structure, your cell phone.
So they have to fix up their website.
Well,
so it goes,
that's
of
fine,
course.
but
yeah.
then that's more jobs for people.
You know what? I love that idea, and I've noticed when I'm thinking through what's going on with YouTube and MySpace, I never quite hooked with MySpace. And I know that it could do a lot where you send messages out and things, but I began to think, well, you know, why pick up another addiction? I almost feel like YouTube's an addiction.
Right.
Because by amalgamating all of those videos, that now they have the power to take down. Most of the videos on YouTube are copywritten anyway, and yet it's very capricious how they take them down. And they've taken down material of mine that's all original. They don't even bother to give the copyright infringement notice. They did that a few times, and then I went through the steps.
Here's the solution to that. Storage is so inexpensive that if a person made available their website for you to have your link clicked to have your storage of your videos on that website, they could probably prosper from the advertising that they could sell to the people that would click over and look at it. So there's a market there probably.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think what Harold Channer was talking about, I think Norbert Wiener was saying that when everybody's talking to everybody, you know, billions, then a pattern still emerges. So you can definitely see a pattern has emerged with YouTube.
Right.
And instead of fleeing from it, I stick around because I keep thinking, instead of making it an addiction, can there be some way that I and other sincere posters can have more of an ownership, more of authority, like you say, the ombudsman, if he calls it, just hang up.
Yeah.
If you're just a regular poster right now, YouTube has no reason to listen to you. But what happened there along the way that made YouTube is what it is because of me and many others. So how can something protect the voice of these many others? Even before about Infinity, I noticed there was Viacom. There's some kind of...
The answer is they're privately owned and they can do pretty much what they want.
Except it's affecting national security, though. It's affecting national security because if they're taking down videos showing that there was television fakery done during 9/11, this is something that could cause a stampede of public opinion. So how do you protect on that? Because I know you can, you know, Trading with the Enemy Act.
You need to be able to have an alternative place that you can put these videos so that we save them and that...
Oh yeah, that's done. I mean, I've got the videos. It's just they took down, in this case, there was one video that had 3,800 hits within 5 days and 813 very valuable comments from planers, no planers. It was like a crash course. If just to look at that one video and the comments, you would learn 2 years.
Is this the Lear one?
No.
Because Lear and Fetzer really came together in that of the number of parts that they didn't find. They didn't find millions of parts of the airplane or 3 miles of wire.
Yes, yes. No, but those are still two experts.
Yeah.
This was Rosalie Grable holding a sign that said, "Investigate the death of Dan Wallace." And then the people who were supposed to be against the no-planers were coming up and giving their opinion why this is not good to be divisive and so on. And Rosalie, as she kept answering them, you could just see quantum shifts in understanding, and then people go, "Yes, I can see what you mean," but people can't handle it. But the fact is, buddy, if you could handle it, why couldn't someone else handle it? And it's elitist to think that there's a certain cream of knowledge that only the insiders can know, or that it's dangerous, you can't talk about it, and they're going to come and get you. I think that's the biggest psychological operation against people, to think they can't talk, they can't go out and hand out flyers, or maybe it's an excuse to succumb to apathy.
One quick thing, I didn't say how that free college was financed.
Oh, sorry.
You get insurance on older people, 73 years of age or older, and that if they're good health and they're not insured, you can sell the policy for 3% when you sign up, or 2 years later you can sell it for 10%, or you wait until the person dies and you receive the full amount of the policy. That's the way that local people that are rich, and they don't pay for this. They get the policies will be paid for by someone else, but they're worth money immediately when written, so that you can finance a low-cost school with insurance.
You mean a life insurance?
Yeah.
You're insuring on your life?
Not my life, a life on local people that are wealthy, that are not overinsured.
That are not overinsured.
It's like a contribution,
so if they
they're only offering their insurability. They're not paying for it. They're just letting us use their insurability as a local nonprofit.
And the insurance company's taking a risk on how long they live.
Well, it's all,
right.
it's not a risk.
Yeah.
It's all done with graphs and statistics.
Right, exactly.
The underwriters know exactly what the life expectancy is.
Brilliant as ever, Carl.
Yeah.
Always thinking, well, I'm really looking forward to working with you more in the future, particularly on the 9/11 ballot initiative that includes the Office of Attorney General for the City of New York. In the last minute, can you tell people how they can reach you?
Yes, my office is 212-307-4444, and I have a website that's interesting, lawmall.com, lawmall, LAWMALL.com, and a new website's going up, 9/11 realinvestigation.org. 9/11realinvestigation.org.
Right.
So that's the newest one.
I've been calling it the original ballot initiative, 9/11 ballot initiative, or the unflawed one, because I consider without a funding it won't get as far. So this is Paula Gloria thanking you for joining me with Carl Pearson, and you can Google his name and learn a lot more. It's spelled like person, but it's pronounced Pearson because you're Swedish?
Yes,
Swedish.
But they cut an S out of it. Pearson.
Pearson, I see. So there you go. This has just been an excursion farther down the rabbit hole to learn about possibilities of how a person can become educated and not be embroiled